I'm attorney Mark Nicholson from the Law Office of Mark Nicholson, also known as the Battery Man. Now I'm here today to talk about day 7 of the Jonathan Majors jury trial. Listen, this is explosive material that came out today on Friday. This will probably make some people change their mind. And I believe that the attorney for Jonathan Majors slipped up. I don't know if she was trying to be too cute, trying to play for the media stories, or just she slipped up. And the reason why she slipped up is because she opened the door. If you remember on day 1 that I talked about the judge keeping certain evidence out, that he sealed certain evidence, but she could open the door by her cross-examination questions and that evidence comes in. Well, during her cross-examination, she got in there and asked some questions that she probably shouldn't have asked. And boom, the prosecutor jumped on it and said, Judge, that evidence that was sealed from the jury, they should be allowed to hear it. So those text messages were admitted into evidence. And the reason why I'm wearing this Batman shirt today is because Batman, as people know, is the world's greatest detective. And this evidence that came in today, we're going to use some detective skills to find out what really happened in that incident, those text messages that came in the evidence today. But first, Jabbari's friend, Holly, who was also a choreographer, testified today in court. And her testimony was that Jabbari, once she started dating, she was happy, they were in love, everything seemed to be going well. And then at some point, she says that Jabbari stopped really communicating with her, got really thin, stopped eating, things like that. Okay, so the prosecution can put on an expert. I don't know if they are or not, but those are classic symptoms of someone that is battered, that's someone that is abused, that they are taken away from their loved ones, their family, their friends. They stop eating, they become more reserved. So that sounds like the case that the prosecution is trying to build. Like, look, he started being controlling, that he wouldn't let her talk to her friends, that she got depressed and she was eating. So the prosecutor is trying to build a case of a man who is controlling a female, and she is just totally helpless, that she has lost her mind and has no will to think on her own. And that is the case that the prosecutor is building. So apparently one day after the incident, she calls her friend Holly. And Holly is a choreographer. Well, when Holly gets this call, she says that Miss Jabbari sounded like I've never heard before. Quiet, wrecked, sounded like she was in shock. Now, this was one day after the incident, even though immediately afterwards it didn't seem like she was in shock. She also said that Jabbari stopped hanging out with the friends, that she started losing weight, and these are classic signs of someone that is being controlled, being abused. That's the way I'm sure the prosecution is going to try to argue that to the jury. Now, she also said that when she first met Jonathan Major, she said he seemed to be a very sweet and charming person. Now, getting inside Miss Jabbari's psychology, inside her head a little bit, are detective skills. If you recall, she didn't report this incident, and she said that she didn't want to get him in trouble. She's trying to protect him. That testimony there opened the door. Now, we didn't know at the time, but that testimony, that line of questioning from the defense attorney opened the door to some very damaging evidence. And when Miss Jabbari said she was scared of the consequences, I guess I still wanted to protect him. The defense attorney should have known that there are these text messages that specifically reference him, text messages that specifically reference him and Miss Jabbari and some kind of physical altercation. In September of 2022, these text messages, unrelated to this particular case, but they were supposed to be living in London together, and she had some head injuries. Once again, in this case, head injuries, right? The question is, did the defendant try to dissuade you from getting medical attention? A prosecutor asked Ms. Jabbari, and her answer was yes. In one of the text messages, it says, "I fear you have no perspective of what could happen if you go to the hospital." This is what Jonathan Majors said. He goes, "They will ask you questions, and as I don't think you actually protect us, it could lead to investigation even if you do lie and they suspect something." So once again, that word protect, that phrase was mentioned in a previous text, and she said she was trying to protect us. And so remember, we were kind of questioning, what do you mean? Like, that doesn't make any sense. She's trying to protect them, but yet she's telling the police. Well, she had said that in a previous message, and the defense should have known it. One of her responses, Ms. Jabbari's responses in that text message was, "Why would I tell them what really happened if I feel like I want to be with you?" What really happened? Now, true, he is not on trial for what happened back then and in London. Matter of fact, they don't even have jurisdiction in the United States for the incident that happened in London. But the defense attorney should have known that, and with the line of questioning that she did, she opened the door for the prosecutors to pounce on that and get that into evidence. One of the text messages that she sends is, "I will tell the doctor I bumped my head. I will not go to the doctor if you don't feel safe with me doing so." So once again, here it is. She's saying that she wouldn't go to the doctor. She wouldn't tell on him if he doesn't feel safe. Classic signs of someone that is a victim of domestic battery. Jonathan Majors, in one of his texts, he responds, "It's just fake." So I don't know what context. I mean, it's just fake. Was it fake blood, or it was a fake? I don't know what this means. It's fake, but it's not really given any other context about what he's saying is fake. Miss Jabbari was actually reading these text messages, but she teared up and could no longer read the messages. So the prosecutor started reading the messages. Now, I don't know if this was kind of planned out, but one of the things that he says is, through reading the text message that Jabbari sent Mr. Majors from the incident in the past, was, "I will tell the doctor I bump my head if I go. I'm going to give it one more day, but I can't sleep and I need some stronger painkillers. That's all. Why would I tell them what really happened when it's clear I want to be with you?" That sounds damaging. And if you remember, back in October, the prosecutors filed like a 115-page pretrial motion. They wanted to be able to talk about these text messages. And the judge said, no, it's not coming in. And usually when the prosecutors want to talk about something and the defense wants to keep it out, it's because it's not helpful to the defense. And I made mention of that in a previous video. In New York, they have something that's called Molyneux evidence. And it basically says that it is, the conduct is interwoven with the charged acts and may provide necessary background information or explanation to the charged acts. And so basically, to break it down kind of in regular terms, is the court can say this evidence is admissible because it's going to provide some background about what happened. So when she's saying that, hey, I didn't want to report the incident that he's going to trial for to the police because I wanted to protect him, be safe, and the defense attorney cross-examines her about that and tries to make it look like it doesn't make sense and attacking her credibility, then the prosecutor can say, well, wait a minute, let's give it some background information. She had a head injury before, and what did he do? He told her, hey, I need you to not tell the police because they're going to do an investigation, And she felt pressure to not report it, not even go to the hospital. And that is what the prosecutor showed, that no, she's just not making this up. It does make sense because she said it before, that she wasn't going to tell when she had a head injury. I mean, I don't know. Maybe she's drunk and she's falling and hitting her head. But he's saying things that make it seem like he may have been the cause of the injury. And the reason why I said that the defense made a mistake is because they knew that there was a history of him sending these text messages, and it made it look like there was a prior incident. And they knew that she was afraid to tell on him in the past, and she said that she wanted to protect us, protect him, and they tried to impugn her credibility. And that's what the judge ruled. That he ruled on Friday morning that the defense attorney basically asked questions in an effort to impugn the credibility of Ms. Jabbari, even though they knew there were other reasons that she did not tell. They tried to make it seem like she just made this up, and the judge said, hey, that stuff's coming in. But it's even deeper. Whoa. I mean, one of the messages that Jonathan Majors sent to her says, last night I considered killing myself versus coming home. I need love too. Or maybe I'm such a monster and horrible man, I don't deserve it. And I should just kill myself. In this way, my existence is miserable. I want to die. So he's basically alluding to killing himself, and he's a horrible person. He's a monster. He called himself a monster. Now, on a side note, this is one of the things that gets me about people that are rich and famous. Obviously, I'm not. But here it is that they seem like they're on top of the world. They got millions of dollars. They got all this fame and fortune, but they're unhappy inside. Like, why would he even contemplate killing himself when he's at the height of his career? Because she was hinting at going to the hospital, not reporting to police, but going to the hospital, and then all these questions were going to be asked, and then he was going to get in trouble. Another thing that he was kind of admonishing her about rejecting his love. He said, I will probably kill myself. It's not really contemplating anymore. I'm a monster. I'm a horrible man, not capable of love. I'm killing myself soon. This is damaging. This breaks down the persona of someone that is put together, coming in the court every day with the Bible. It's tearing it down. The image he wanted to project to the jury. And it's going to be hard for him to get on the witness stand and answer those questions. What did you mean when you said that? Did you send those texts? Yes. Is that your phone number? Yes. So you thought about killing yourself? Those are very tough questions, and questions that he probably doesn't want to answer. So I am not convinced that he is going to take the witness stand now. You could have a field day with those questions. Her response, now this makes her look good. Her response is, Jonathan, you can't say this. I'm going to have to tell someone, because she doesn't want him to kill himself. So now she seems like she's the rational one and trying to protect him. She no longer seems crazy. He does. And all because his defense attorney asked the wrong questions. It was so damaging that Jonathan didn't even really look at the jury. He had his head down when he was hearing it. Then after it's over, then he looks up at the jury. They have to be really careful. They, being the defense, have to be really careful, because there are more texts out there. In that 115-page motion that they filed, it talks about photographs of hand, shoulder, buttocks, punching, discussing pain. I have practiced law long enough to know that there can be alternate explanations for that. There are people that are into B&D, bondage discipline, S&M, sadomasochism. There are people that are into that. And there are people that do get bruises through this type of sexual activity. It is possible, and I had mentioned it, when I talked about it earlier, back in my very first episode, I had mentioned it when we're talking about the evidence being excluded, that it was prejudicial, is it could be that some of that's, could it be, like, you're talking about the buttocks, could it be, he has a spanking fetish, or she has, and her body got bruised. Maybe that's the reason why he mentions that it was fake, because this was some consensual sexual activity, but yet it would make him look bad. He feels bad because he's getting sexually aroused by this kind of inflicting pain on other people, and she's into it as well. Who knows? But there's definitely something more out there in our detective mind skills. I'm not saying that he is guilty of it, but you have to recognize that there is something going on in physical nature between these two. Whether it's consensual or whether it's combative, abusive, taking turns on one another, whatever, but something physical. This does seem like an unhealthy relationship. And maybe it's a situation where she gets drunk and attacks him and he, fights back. Who knows? But in the end, I think this was an error, a strategic error by the defense. I want to be clear. It does not mean I think, he's sunk, it's over with, he's guilty, because the defense has not presented their case. And they may be ready for that. They may have some explanation. It happened early on in the trial. Maybe by the time it goes to closing arguments, people have forgotten about it. Maybe jurors will say, hey, that may have happened then, but we're only talking about this incident right here. On day 7, this Friday, the prosecution won this round. And that's your Nicholson nugget of the day. Thank you again for all the people that are liking and subscribing. We've made it past 1,000 subscribers. We've got thousands of views. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the comments. I try to respond to as many as I can. It's just a joy to be able to produce something that people like. Thank you.